Hello, welcome to Examining Fictional Heroes and the Authors Behind Them. My name is Wayne Browder. I am going to embark on a short series regarding survival stories. The first few I'm going to break these down one at a time, by the way. There's not going to be a lot of reading because a lot of these are movies. I think men are probably drawn to survival stories because we all wonder if we're capable of surviving in extreme circumstances. And while surviving is the overarching theme of these movies, the means of it and the way that people go about it are different in all of these. So that's what we're going to look into. I'm going to start this series with a movie that I'm sure probably most of you have seen because it's a fairly recent movie. To me, it's fairly recent. Came out in 2012, actually. It's called The Grey with Liam Neeson. The story is about Alaskan oil workers who survive a plane crash in the wilderness. And they have to fight off a pack of wolves. But they also have to determine a hierarchy of their own. So I think that the main thing here, at least for me, is the interactions between the men. I have to say that one of the reasons, though, that the movie to me is not as great as I thought it was going to be. I was really hyped. When I saw the previews, I thought this is going to be great. And I watched it a couple of times, and it kind of was more of a letdown from all that hype. And I think the big thing for me was wolves don't act that way. Just as one example, if you're going into a forest and you're attacked by a pack of wolves, you are not going to have time to light a fire to keep those wolves at bay. All you're going to have time to do is stand and fight. So things like that, I really much care for. I'm going to say, too, that I was put off by a lot of the guide baiting, as a friend of mine put it. As a Christian, it was rather hard to sit through. As someone who has never been in such an extreme circumstance, I hope I would never fall to doing that if I were. Having said all those things, there are a few things I would like to say about the movie, though. First off, Liam Neeson plays a depressed dude far too well. Made me suicidal watching him. Okay, it was depressing. However, despite his depression, he was a leader. When he woke up after the crash and realized what had happened, he took charge. He started looking for survivors. He found Flannery. And I think Flannery, in a way, is a bit of an interesting character. Flannery, he really liked to talk. He was doing it when they were first boarding the plane. And Otway was really not in the mood. And that offended Flannery. And I've noticed a lot of people are that way. You know, they get offended or upset just because you don't want to talk or you want to be by yourself or whatever. You know, most people don't understand that. So they get put off by it. But when Otway found him after the crash, you know, his leg was injured. He was still strapped into a seat. And Otway's working on his leg, and he's just, oh, help me, help me. Then he brings him into the plane where some other survivors are gathered, and one of those men are dying. And he says, help him, Otway. And I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was good that after he was so concerned about himself, he was still able to recognize that there was someone in a worse situation than he was in. And after this man passed, Otway takes charge of the group. He starts telling them, we've got to find stuff to burn. We've got to find food. We're going to die if we don't do this. So now they have work to do rather than sitting around and feeling sorry for themselves and things like that. They have started the work of trying to survive because he called them to it. And I also think that unlike the wolves, the men had to establish a hierarchy. So far, they had listened to Otway simply because he stood up and took charge. And I will say that oftentimes that is all you have to do. If you're in a situation and you see something needs to be done, you just step up, you start doing it. You start saying, this is what we need to do. That's what a leader does. I know I've said this multiple times. I've written things about it. A leader does not have to have a title. A leader is a leader. Someone who takes charge of a situation and does what has to be done. And because of that, people choose to follow them. However, while they're looking for things they can eat and things they can burn, one of the guys, Diaz, decides he wants to relieve one of the corpses of their wallet. And Otway tells him to put it back. And so they face off against each other over the wallets. And Diaz was like, you just took a big step back. And he's like, Otway basically says, you're going to be spitting a lot of blood in about 5 seconds if you don't put that back. So he does. But he doesn't forget the incident. After a couple of them are attacked in the night, Otway being the first, and then Hernandez later, who is killed by the wolves, they decide they want to go into the forest instead of staying with the plane. Diaz fronted the idea first, but Otway decided he was going to do it. The other ones followed him. While they were in the forest, Diaz decided again to basically fight for the leadership of the group. And he failed. And from that point on, they all decided to follow Otway. So I do believe that was very interesting, the struggle for supremacy, as it were, among the men. Also, at a point where they stopped for the night, they had a philosophical discussion. And you find out that a lot of these people obviously have different philosophies on life and different views on religion. And that's to be expected from a diverse group like that. And it's showing the beliefs and the things that have formed these men into what they are. That part of it, I thought was very interesting. But as they're continuing to march through the woods and fight off wolves, they start to die. One man dies in his sleep in the night. One man falls from a rope when they're trying to cross a divide. Yeah, I thought that part was ludicrous too. Making a long jump of about 30 feet from running on ice, that was a bit much. Trying to climb down the cliff face would have made more sense if they had tried to do that rather than have someone take a running jump on ice that they could not possibly complete. But one man dies when their makeshift rope breaks. The wolves attack him when he's lying on the ground. Diaz becomes injured when he falls out of the tree trying to get down there. And at this point, there's only 3 left, Diaz and Henrik and Otway. And after a while, Diaz has nothing left and he does not want to go on anymore. And in a way, I can see his reasoning. I mean, he says, what's my life? I sit on a drill all day. I get drunk all night. What have I got to look forward to? He sees that view and he says, I feel like that's all for me. You know, I'm done. So after Henrik and Otway leave Diaz, Henrik challenges Otway about what he was doing the last night in camp, because he saw him leave with his rifle. And he said, I never thought I'd see you alive again. And I think that is one of the most interesting parts of the movie. That despite the fact that Otway was depressed and even suicidal, he was the one that pulled these men together to fight for survival. I find that very interesting. There is another movie I'm going to get to later in this series that is similar, whereas like the main character is also suicidal for different reasons. But Henrik dies. Always unable to save him. That scene is very similar to an older movie that some of you may have seen called Once Upon a Great Notion, I believe, with Paul Newman. It's about a logging crew, and there was a very similar type death scene in that movie. But in the end, Otway once again falls to rancor himself. He's outright challenging God. And then later, for some reason, he stops and he's taking out the wallets that they had all decided to collect to take to the families. And he's lying them out in the shape of a cross. So, is he still working through this? That's really unclear. But he finds himself in the den of the wolves and facing them there at the end. Now, story-wise, it's a little cool that like the alpha wants to face this guy alone, but once again, wolves don't know. That's me. They're going to attack. That's it. So anyway, that's my overall review of this particular movie. If you see anything different or you think I've missed something or whatever, I'd be glad to hear it. You can leave any comments or criticisms. And likes, follows, anything of that nature. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys. I really do. And like I said, if you have anything else, I'd be interested in hearing about it. Have a good day.